everybody all at once. This is Theo Cedar Jones on May 14th, 2019, and this is my May Day video. So I'm celebrating May 1st of the year, which is also the anniversary, my 6th anniversary of awakening from the ego. And I also want to talk about kind of like a what it's like to be me type video. What did I have to do to get where I am now and achieve what I've achieved? And I thought a good heading for that would be the failure I had to eat. So this will be about the failure I had to eat. And but before I get to that, I want to do something that Lisa Cairns does at the beginning of her videos. And she'll just be silent for a period of time. So I'm going to try that. Om Shri Parama Saptana Adida Lavananda Hridayam Om Mada. So what does May Day mean to me? It means a good green smoothie and kombucha break. Two-fisted beverage control. Lead by motherfucking example. Okay. What is May Day? May Day is a fertility cult that pre-existed Christianity and was probably the normative cultural approach to human reproduction of the species for millennia, let's say for thousands, tens of thousands of generations. Humans as cultural beings have found a way to keep a precarious foothold on this crust of planet for thousands and thousands of generations before Christianity or the Abrahamic religions emerged out of the head of misbegotten reptilian self-proclaimed demigods and bloodlines who came up with the perfect sort of monotheistic mind control system to resonate with our particular susceptibilities as humans. But before this whole Christian problem arose, humans had already found an adaptation, a cultural evolutionary adaptation that enabled them to survive all the threats and hazards of human existence and evolution through, of course, all the mass tamperings. 20 or so different extraterrestrial species have been using our gonads as a playtime, action figure, sex toy, sex slave, labor slave, experiment laboratory. We are the most manipulated species. And yet, we are the ultimate spiritual Frankenstein that got out of control of its handlers and produced Adi-Da. Adi-Da. Adi-Da is a human being. Adi-Da is in a human genetic form. So human genetic form can support 7th-stage enlightened self-realization, as is the case with Santosh Ama. So, I want to celebrate May Day, which involves, in the ancient sacred traditions, the virgins of the village dancing around the maypole, and then there's a public orgy. And mass fertilization of the tribe or the village people takes place in what is an openly socially accepted orgy. And doubtless a lot of, under the age of 18 people are participating in reproductive practices that have been successful for humans for thousands and thousands of generations. So I think it's a survival advantage for humans to relate to the May Day celebration in a positive way and overcome their Christian baggage around paganism and the occult and earth religions and female bodies and human sexuality. And this is what is taking place in the emergent goddess age. And the death of the patriarchy is that, yes, we're finally getting back to the goddess values of sensuality, procreation, pleasure, and beauty, and things like that. But you have to actively acculturate yourself back to those values. And it's going to be some tough sledding for you poor mind-controlled Christians out there who, yes, Christ is the Son of God or a Son of God. Yes, Christ is an enlightened true spiritual master. However, it is entirely possible that the monolithic, weird corporate cult that emerged around Christ is falsified in some key and essential ways. The main one is that Christ is a substitute for your enlightenment. That if you didn't merely believe in Christ, that you will be saved in the afterlife from hell. And that's not the point. You're in hell now, and you need to be enlightened in this lifetime. And the only way to do that is to get up on your own cross, emulate the trials and passion of Christ yourself by surrendering your ego up on your own cross. That's the only way for you, is through your own crucifixion, through self-examination. In light of the Guru's grace, obviously. You're not going to do this as some kind of horrible, hideous self-operation, like tearing your sternum open and grabbing the tingler through the front because it's too hard to operate on yourself from the back, so you're like ripping and shredding. Remember the tingler? This is a reference to Vincent Price movie, horror movie, B-movie. That fear is entified as some like crustacean, mollusk, hideous creature that lives inside you. It's like a precursor to the Alien movie. So if you look at the Tingler, you look at the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and you look Alien Tingler Body Snatcher, Alien Tingler Body Snatcher, that's a perfect example of the egoic fear matrix and how at least incarnated in my own youthful imagination. So I'm very pro May Day, obviously, and May Day is the anniversary of my awakening, 6 years strong, no ego, and no self-contraction, and radiant samadhi as a default state, formless absorption as a default state, effortless devotion, constant heart-wounded devotion. So it's my decision that I would take on holding space for the biggest things. And that's what got me where I am today on this May Day celebration of 2019. But here, let's get into the price that I paid to do that. I had to eat failure on a scale I don't think anybody can realize except Adida, who and Warner Williams. So I've been in a situation where I had to eat failure in Warner's career, in Swaybone's career, in my advocacy of Adida. All these things have been met with like constant resounding resistance and being a lone voice in the wilderness to try to save rock and roll. I mean, there are others like Rick Beato, and a lot more people are waking up and noticing that rock's in serious trouble, just like the whole culture is in a state of near terminal decadence. And it was in final end stage self-destruction before Trump was elected and before I was woken up by the WikiLeaks emails. and Bernie Sanders endorsing Hillary, which just made me insane. I mean, that was a moment of crisis in my mind, a rupture, a breach that was never healed. That was my walk-away moment from the Democratic Party. But because I've been striving in rock and roll for 33 years and have been shunned, denied, ignored, neglected, and have gotten absolutely zero support from any rich people, any influencers, any stars in the field, I've been invisible and struggled at the margins of the toxic, polluted, alcohol-based rock and roll club scene, and been an absolute marginal, lowest of the low, economically speaking, which now I'm totally proud of, because I'm untainted by success or by visibility or association with the demonic forces of the Illuminati. I have literally been given a pass from that whole scene. I have lived a life. I'm going to try to explain it to you in this video tonight. Why I ate so much failure, or maybe I'm trying to justify it, and maybe it's not something I can even rationalize. Let's just say it's so much failure to absorb, to be shunned by Adi Da's community, to be to fail at his mission, to get him more visible to the world, except through my song lyrics. That was the only area where I could control the degree to which I support Adi Da in my missionary efforts, other than these videos. But my music is my main way. That's the main way I was going to do my mission for Adi Da. And now through Real Rock, I see a way forward to make it a way to grow cooperative community through rock bands cooperating. And that is a good basis for educating people about Not To Is Peace, Prayer Unity, cooperative community. So it's like the pieces are coming together for me to realize these outlandishly big goals I have. To be an enlightened rock star hero, or somebody who saves rock and roll, somebody who helps to save the world by co-creating the Global Cooperative Forum. And turning on literally everybody to Adi Da and Santosha Ma, who's not asking us to make a mission for her, but Adi Da is. So I'm committed by vow to create a mission for Adi Da. I can't not also include my confession of Santosha Ma and the fact that I'm the luckiest devotee in the world, because I'm one of only 3 or 4 people who, let's say, are true heart devotees of Adi Da and Santosha Ma at the same time. It's me, my friend Mike, my friend Spencer, and my friend Pat. And I don't know if I would describe Pat as so much of a true heart devotee of Adi Da, but she recognizes him. She has a relationship with him. That's the least I could say. And a great respect. But me, Mike, and Spencer are true heart devotees and of Adi Da, and I'm under vow to Adi Da to fulfill his missionary work. And that represents one of the areas of failure that I've had to eat. I mean, I was basically squeezed out of Adi Dam in any effective service way in 2008. And since my awakening in 2013 rather, it seems like sales of Warner's paintings just went down to 2 paintings sold in 7 years. We sold 4 in 2012, and then it's been, since my awakening, a drought. It feels like the demons came in and attacked me since my awakening in certain areas through the housemates that were living here. Had a dozen people, still one here, that are demonic or negative or attacking me financially or psychically or emotionally or verbally. And that's been a continuous thing since the awakening, is financial stress, financial attack by housemates. And that's part of an exhausting battle that I've been doing, I guess, with the demons and the ego culture and every last vestige of the cabal that I'm here to wipe off the face of this planet, personally. Like, I'm here to destroy the ego culture without compromise, without no quarter. Just think of the song No Quarter by Led Zeppelin and you'll know my attitude towards the ego culture. I give no quarter. I will give no quarter. And there's not going to be one atom of ego culture left standing on another when I'm finished. So that's the position I've taken. It's all along. That's the position I took with my own ego, not to like kill it per se, but I was helplessly dragged finally into the self-observation process with Adida, what he calls listening hearing, and that was the ultimate confrontation with the self-contraction, when you no longer have any illusions or armoring against it, when you're totally disillusioned with your seeking, you're totally disillusioned with all your worldly efforts, which I was by 2000. Before I met Adida in 2001, I'd already been exhausted of my musical search, my spiritual search, my meditation, yoga search, my drug and marijuana and psychedelic drug search, sexual, emotional search with women. Although I was just starting up a great relationship with Bunny at the time, I guess I didn't have any illusions that was going to be fulfilling or, in ultimate terms, going to relieve me of the fear, worry, and guilt that was becoming unmanageable for me. And I've had the greatest life of seeking of anybody I know. Like, nobody has had access to the kinds of experiences I've had. Not a single man walking on this planet has the collection of achievements that I have. And that's part of the truth of what I'm going to try to lay out tonight, in terms of, like, what sort of return on investment did I get for eating all that failure? And what does it take to be who I am and what I've done? It means, in the most basic sense, I've been holding space for the cooperation of everybody all at once in the Global Cooperative Forum since 2008. I made formal public acknowledgement of that value, those goals, with Bunny Buns in our prior Unity wedding on July 23rd, 2008 rather, at the Kennedy Grove in El Sobrante, California. And Bunny and I still hold fast to the prior Unity vows that we took to each other, everybody all at once, and Adida. And that means I've been holding psychic space for an idea that virtually nobody is talking about at any level of woke, conspiratorial, alt-right, anything that looks like a more positive, enlightened, responsible thing that's going on in the world, which the ending of the cabal under Trump would appear to be. Like, way better than I could have imagined things turning out. Like, I was looking at the problems of nuclear warfare, and I was looking at the problems of intransigent irresponsibility among politicians, and I was looking at the problem of gross, vulgar materialism at the grassroots level of the human race. I mean, I was looking at every problem without reservation. In my book, The Plan, How to Save the World, which I released in 2007, simultaneously with getting the book Not To His Peace from Adida, those two things happened at the same time. And I was like, instantly, like, my work was overshadowed by Adida's, and like submitted to his, like, oh, everything I'm doing in my book is just support work for his book. His book is clearly the great plan for world peace, and my book is like, it was a list of the top 100 problems in the world, more or less by priority, and an analysis of how ego directly contributed to, as the source of those problems, and how every one of the world problems could be addressed through a combination of egoless awakening with practical, positive solutions to those problems. So it's very brass tacks, very much like look at the top 100, because I'm like a rock and roller. I'm always looking at the top 100 charts to see what's the order of things in the universe. And so we'd never done this in a harm reduction analysis of what's all the biggest problems of the world. Let's just line up the top 100 and look at them by lethality and loss of revenue and degree of suffering caused, and just come up with measurables to look at how bad things are in each problem and look at the best practices for the solution of those problems. So I've been making psychic space for like unbelievable scale and scope of concern for the global situation. I know other people have too, but strangely, nobody came up before me and Adida in 2007. Like, nobody had come up with a plan for the world. I mean, a comprehensive, workable plan to deal with all the problems and come up with the right positive ways to live. I mean, this is so fucking basic. The only people making global plans of this kind are the Bilderberg Group and Bohemian Grove. So right north of where I live is Bohemian Grove. And that's the people that come from Cal Berkeley and Stanford and think tanks and Harvard and Yale, and these are the Skull and Bones and secret societies and the dumbass, dumb fuck Freemasonry that are planning and plotting over hundreds of thousands of years some ass way to use fear and control to control everything and everybody. And then behind that is a demonic final plan to depopulate the world and strip its assets and harvest its children for rape slaves. And rape, slavery, and harvesting humans for food is the common expected destiny in this, where the world was heading under globalization, under the Democratic Party, under communism, under this fake left hegemony that was trying to get a hold of us. And it's just too good to be true in a way that Trump won, that WikiLeaks happened, that QAnon is happening, that the patriotic movement in America is happening. It's like every day I have to give myself some credit. Like, I've been holding space for these unbelievably big positive things. And then these things are kind of happening and they're coming true. And there's all kinds of agonizing backsliding and bad problems still happening. And, I heard that Isaac Happy was killed, and I'm just like, I'm so sad about that, if it's true. And bless you, Isaac. Let's just lift your conscious realization to the highest level in Adida, no matter where you are. Light and love and protection around you, Isaac, wherever you are. And all the other truth voices on the internet. God bless you all. God bless you all. I'm so, 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 so happy with what my patriotic Americans and people in England and people all over the world who are rejecting globalism and rejecting the fake left and coming back to certain traditional conservative values. And of course, you've got to handle things like security and our constitutional integrity and our sovereignty as human individuals. These things have to be dealt with and handled. We are handling them apace. And I'm just applauding and loving all of the amazing contributions of, you know who you are, the millions of people, and I include Alex Jones. Even though Alex Jones isn't talking about Adida. Nobody's talking about Adida in the public sphere of visibility. No one. Until me, I guess. So the failure I had to eat is something that just weighs on me and has been like a ridiculous, unspeakable burden that, like, my second ex-wife can attest to, because she could see that I was giving everything I had to support and protect the painter Warner Williams' life. Like, he's trying to destroy himself with alcohol. The art world is going into the most pernicious death spiral of postmodernism that rejects everything Warner stands for, which is classicism and a new old master level of craft and technique and modernism combined with tradition in the most perfect balance, and a comprehensive, germane statement about contemporary California life, Central California light in particular. What a beautiful subject, Central California light. Not people portraits, not sentimental portraits of the landscape, but, well, I could go on and on about Warner, and I have, but let's just say, just that one obligation alone in life, think of the psychic burden if you knew the world's greatest painter, the world's greatest genius at science, or the world's greatest genius at music, and their life was on a day-to-day death watch, where the call could come in that he's dead from suicide or drinking, every day after day, week after week, month after month, being on call 24/7 virtually for year upon year upon year upon year to do whatever it takes to keep this one individual human alive, which any parent would understand. That's what you go through just to have a kid. I've gone through something like that with Warner. And he's still alive, he's still painting, and he's my friend, and he says, I love you. And we have, like, one of the greatest friendships in the world. And one of the greatest stories that's ever happened in the art world. We are the modern equivalent to Theo and Vincent van Gogh. I mean, in so many ways, it's ridiculously spooky. And this time, instead of having to die in his 30s, the artist got to live into his 60s and be just banging out production month after month. Warner has been productive and has the body of work that's just A-list painting after A-list painting, perfect masterpiece after great perfect masterpiece, modern, stunning redemption of the sad, sagging, bitter, awful, infested art world, satanic art world, postmodernist, communistic, evil art world. That's where we had to come up. That's the atmosphere in which I had to rise as a sweet, tripping, psychedelic human being. In 1981, taking my first LSD at Stanford University. I opened up my psyche right as culture was going into like the final leftist death spiral of complete globalist, one world communist dictatorship takeover. And politically correct culture taking over campuses, and the fake left dominating discourse in academia. I mean, I saw the corporatization of school when I was there, but I didn't see how this leftist thing was going to infiltrate. And I never could understand the appeal of the socialists or the communist elements on campus, and I was always the guy working in the cooperative food store under the parking lot of Zellerbach Hall, where we had like a membership of 7 people, and we would have our cooperative consensus process, and it was clearly evident that we could do it, and that worked. And it worked in our living situation, and it worked in our business. And I've been living a cooperative culture ever since. And that's one of the other big things I've been holding space for that virtually nobody else talks about. Nobody in the punditry, nobody in the people who are supposed to be the big thinkers in the alt-right, anybody is thinking about the future of what's going to happen when the cabal is destroyed and humanity is saturated with liquidity, financial liquidity, and free energy, and helpful robots that will remove drudgery. All kinds of stuff that are going to make cooperative community like the most essential dialogue and discourse. Not one that should just be shunned and avoided and never talked about. So I've been another lone voice in the wilderness saying cooperative community, as Adida presents it, is the way. It's the way in rock and roll. It's the way at the grassroots of self-determination that any patriotic, libertarian American could understand. It's not just about survivalism, but when you live in an ark habitat and you live in an eco-village and you live in an e-oasis that is comprehensively coordinated for maximum survivability of market shocks and shocks in the ecosystem, that's good conservative values. So ark habitats are good conservative values. Cooperative community at the local level and the global level is ultimate security. Nobody's talking about cooperative community. It's all left versus right, which is totally beside the point. We need the conservative element to protect our borders and our Constitution, and that's the security. And we need the true left, which is the goddess positive culture of nurturing and sensuality and cooperation and rock and roll and the positive use of drugs and a positive social orgiastic culture that is pro-fertility, is pro-fertility culture, is pro-goddess culture. Fake Christianity notwithstanding, fake Islam and fake Judaism notwithstanding, all the baggage and cultural limitations that self-proclaimed Westerners still carry around with regards to sexuality and their sexual programming. Humanity has a big project ahead with cooperative community, with sexuality, with rock and roll as the ultimate expression of local and global culture. But nobody's talking about these things except me, and nobody's, as all these topics all together. Like, certain people are talking about these topics with just one of them. Nobody's talking about all of them together. That the goddess positive culture is emergent. And it doesn't mean that women are going to dominate men. It means that women and men are going to finally exist in a partnership and collaborative relationship. So it doesn't mean they're equal per se. It doesn't mean they're the same, or there's a blandness or lack of polarity between man and woman. The polarity between man and woman is going to get more intense. People are going to discover that polarity and celebrate it instead of trying to like gloss it over with some kind of globalist totalitarian transgender by the point of a gun. Transgenderism by force and guile. Fuck that. You come out of your closet about your gender or shut the fuck up and get out of public life. Michael Obama, fuck you. Fuck you. So I've had to hold space for a lot of unpopular or ideas that don't even have a cohesive bag to hold them together. You know, except Adi Da. Adi Da is the only one who has the biggest comprehensive vision of how there really is a sacred sexual dimension for humans that's not constrained to... I'm not speaking for Adi Da now. This is Theo. This is my philosophy. There is a sacred sexual dimension for humanity that is social and orgiastic and based on consent and sovereignty of the individual, and enhances and amplifies the bonding and trust between human beings, the same way bonobo chimps use sexuality and gender and genital exchanges to enhance social cohesion, to resolve conflicts peacefully, to distribute resources equitably, and all of those kinds of problem solving are well lubricated by an enhanced sexuality that's positive, socially, culturally speaking. It transcends all the evil limitations of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and the Babylonian mind control cults and satanic child sacrifice cults that they practice. So I've allowed myself to take psychic responsibility for everybody all at once, all of the evil in the cabal, no matter how evil it gets. I've been willing to look at it when I can find the truth, or triangulate the truth from many sources as best that I can, or that we're all trying to do, who are really truthers, who are really... I mean, if you're a real truther, you ultimately have to get with Adi Da and add Adi Da to everything else that you've learned, and integrate the seventh stage of life with everything else you're doing. Integrate egolessness and transcendence of the ego with everything else you're doing. So, I also wanted to just share with you this letter I got from Santosha Tantra. This is her basically saying, You are most welcome to come here to be a part of the circle. Here is the first sentence. So I felt like I've gained a welcome from like the ultimate divine person on this planet, which is Santosha Tantra. And, to live with her part-time down in Three Rivers, California, and to start putting into action the Real Rock plan for Central California, which is the grand connecting activism that will bring together my work for the Global Cooperative Forum, the work to acculturate people to Not-To-Is peace and prior unity, the work to save rock and roll, and the work to demonstrate an egoless awakened perspective within rock and cooperative community and arc habitats and sustainable life. Life in harmony with living systems. Living STEM, as Mike Waters would say. I'm holding space for like all these things at once because I thought this is the best plan to save the human race. This is the best plan for the future after we destroy the cabal, is all these things that I'm working on to save rock and roll, to save fine art through Warner Williams, save rock and roll through Swaybone and the Real Rock movement, to finally be successful at advocating Adi-Da to enough people, and finally break through the logjam of the amount of failure I've had to eat. To have this amount of failure to eat in the art world on behalf of Warner Williams means struggling for 20 years to get him into a gallery, a commercial gallery in the Bay Area, and feeling financially attacked since my awakening in 2013. Didn't only get 2 painting sales in 7 years. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's the greatest living painter. And that's how backwards, that's how obscene, that's how satanic and repugnant the art world is. Warner is the poster child of what they've denied in terms of classic traditional skill. There is no more skilled painter on the planet than Warner. There are technically gifted painters who can do photorealistic or very highly detailed, intricate work, but none of them have innovated color reactions and form and content and proportionality and every virtue of art that you could imagine except thick impasto. He has nailed it. Like no other painter has brought forth an art that comprehensively combines modernism and traditional classical painting the way Warner has. And just what it's needed to keep that project, that life, that human being's life going, combined with the psychic unbelievable drain of trying to run a recording studio in California under the Democratic Party and all the taxation and state regulation, which essentially I avoided by being under the radar. I never paid business taxes or insurance. I never made a profit because my rent was always more than the amount of money I made at the studio. I made money at the studio. I made thousands of dollars. I closed deals with dozens, hundreds of rock bands and hip-hop artists to record their music, and I've recorded hundreds and hundreds of songs of my own and other artists at my old studio, Orange Sky, now defunct. And I had to let that go in 2015 because of financial stress. Living in the state of California as a working artist is unbearable. It's unbelievably, ridiculously harsh and terrible. It's one step less worse than what it was like for artists and musicians living in communist Soviet Union. And I personally know one of these Russians who emigrated from the ex-Soviet Union and lived under that as a rock musician. And that is, you will be jailed, for doing it openly. So that's one level worse than where we're at. But we're at the worst, most decadent, most depressed, most hateful, satanic, evil level of rock music. And bands like me, who have been holding the light of classic rock, traditional classic songwriting, and singing and melody and harmony, have been shunned, denied, and in a sense, fortunately, kept away from the evils of the music industry. Existing just at the lowest margin of the music industry meant I never met rich people. I never met influencers. I was never let in by the gatekeepers of anything. Not by Adi Dam, not by rock and roll, not by the wealthy, or anything like that. I have stayed true. I've held space for my set of values and my absolute unwavering commitment to the truth, absolute unwavering commitment to awakening and enlightenment and transcending the ego, and the absolute commitment to destroying the ego culture and replacing it with something viable that I have helped to create and done more to create than any other man walking this planet. I have done the work to synthesize and create a viable future, a cultural way of life that synthesizes the three critical levels of culture that nobody's talking about as a unity, as a comprehensive thing: soil culture, local culture, and global culture. Well, nobody talks about global culture that's not a globalist because nobody's really comprehensively offered anything. There is no great genius or Tesla of global planning, global culture, global cooperation, until Adi Da. Adi Da is the greatest mastermind of politics, of how to arrange and structure the entire human race in a way that's non-coercive, that honors the sovereignty and even the enlightened existence of every human. So I had to hold space psychically for preservation of rock music through taking on the financial stress of owning a fucking recording studio, building a fucking recording studio, getting the equipment, maintaining the equipment, and dealing with toxic business partners. I was also demonically attacked after my awakening. My business partner suddenly decides to become a drug-addicted loser pimp, who can't finish projects, has to steal to get drugs, is more occupied with the shadiest, low-vibrational kind of activities. So, there you have it. I survived that attack, but I had to give up my studio under the demonic state of California and the demonic Democratic Party and the hideous economic climate that they and the Chinese have tried to defeat America by defeating California. The sixth greatest economy in the world is California. The greatest cultural vanguard of human greatness is California, because Adi Da was reawakened in Hollywood, has his sanctuary in Northern California, or what I would call the top of Central California. Adi Da planted and established himself here in California and loved it here. So, California is the greatest of all the states in America, and America is the greatest of all the countries in the world. So if you want to destroy America, you have to destroy California, and that was China's plan, and these globalist twerps, to not defeat America through military arms and direct confrontation, which they know they're never going to win, but defeat America through guile and economic sabotage, so that by causing the failure of California's economy, we would cause the failure of America's economy, the failure of the West altogether, and then China would swoop in and buy it all for pennies on the dollar. Hey, China, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you, China. You're not getting a piece of my intellectual property. You're not going to steal my band's music. You're not going to steal fucking shit anymore. So I ate failure from my recording studio. None of the artists I ever recorded ever got anywhere in their careers. Never got famous, never got heard from again. That environment is disgusting. There was never anybody from the local press ever came to any of our shows. I've never even seen a person from the press at any show of any band in the East Bay or the Bay Area, ever. I've never seen a review that was worth a damn. They don't review shows, they don't record them and keep them archived. They all just fly away into the air and are never heard. That content's destroyed by not being recorded. So the rock scene has been sabotaged, and I put that all into my videos called You Sleeping Fans of Rock. But I'm holding space for the preservation of all of rock and roll. And I'm holding space for the preservation of the greatest fine artist, Warner Williams. And I'm holding space for the greatest unknown avatar ever, who ever existed and who ever will exist, Adi Da Samraj. And I'm holding space for the ultimate social contract, social format, which is cooperative community, based in prior unity, the reality of prior unity. And I have paid the price of holding space for these impossible things for your sake and my sake, because I've got to live the greatest life by doing these things. The greatest stress, the greatest psychic responsibility, just holding space for the Global Cooperative Forum, holding space for Adi Da's mission, holding space for cooperative community in the Global Cooperative Forum at the levels of soil culture, local culture, and global culture. Holding space for the fact that I have nurtured myself as an artist, as a visionary, as a genius, as a multiple genius. And if you want to know what I got from paying this price of eating so much failure, because you can only eat this much failure when you aspire so high and so greatly in so many fields that are so shunned and under-recognized as I have. I have been holding space for the greatest unrecognized things on the planet. And the greatest thing of all that's not Adi Da or having families is rock and roll. The greatest things in life, nature and animals, Adi Da, rock and roll, and kids, family, children. But rock and roll is the most, that and the hippie movement, as I pointed out in my other videos, You Sleeping Fans of Rock, rock and roll has been under direct attack in every conceivable way, sabotaged in the most hideously dirty, nasty, awful, evil, satanic ways. And the only reason rock is as bad as it is today is no accident of history or the marketplace. It is direct and intentional dirty tricks and sabotage of the worst, most evil kind. And you fuckers who have fucked with rock and roll, you sellouts and gatekeepers, everything you've done is going to be put into the daylight of the public square, and you will be adjudicated, and you will pay for what you've done. And you will find no place in the entire universe that you can escape my wrath, my attention to your case and its consequences, and my determination that justice will be served on all you evildoers who've affected the music industry. God bless, as Ragnar would say. So what else do we have on our little list of items? Still taking the position that's more comprehensive than anyone else's. Yeah, I kind of said that. The stress of high expectations. Alex Jones isn't talking about Adida. The right isn't talking about bonobo primate sexual adaptation and the needs for fertility cults. Except for me, Rock isn't talking about prior unity. So again, those are just examples of no matter how advanced people are right now, nobody's talking about all the things that I'm talking about at once. And the psychic dimension of holding space for that and being uncompromising about that every day and facing the blank canvas of music and art. And so part of one of the things that I did get out of eating this much failure is that I saved and protected my sacred space as an artist and as a spiritual practitioner and devotee of Adida, such that I had the richest, most amazing learning and achievement course, such that I think I am the world's first 8 or 9 way genius, in the sense that I've achieved genius level achievements at songwriting, singing, drawing, writing, crying, romantic love, awakening, leadership. And there could be some more, but that's the basic list, I think. And nobody else has achieved genius in all those levels. So just, you can debate whether that's true of me or not, and that's fine. I'm stating, I believe that. And if that's true, imagine what it would take to hold psychic space to be all those things. To face the blank canvas of songwriting and lyric writing every day. To face the blank canvas of singing and being a great guitar player every day. You've got to maintain what it takes to be one of the world's greatest guitar players, which I am, one of the world's greatest rock singers, which I am, one of the world's greatest rock songwriters, which I am, a genius level at drawing and painting, at public speaking, at leadership, at romantic love with women, and crying. So imagine having that ability to have the wound of love as a man available to you all the time without armoring. So I can feel the sympathy, the direct, empathetic, wrenching, with no limitation on the depth of feeling. That's one of the things I've achieved. And that's not by accident. That's by paying dues. That's by being submissive to the people who are better than you at those things. By yielding and trusting in mentors. By following the courses of action and trials necessary to pass every test that you possibly can. That's within your agenda of what you're trying to achieve. So my achievement level is just, it's godlike. And I accept, basically, my position and role in life is to live as an example of someone who really has gone to great degrees to achieve in positive ways in those areas of genius I described. I really wanted to be great and achieve to the maximum degree without putting any limitations on myself, which I did as an ego until I stopped doing that. But even as an ideal before my ego, awakening from ego, I always had an ideal of unlimitedness and infiniteness, and that my nature and my capabilities are unlimited in a positive sense, and that I might as well experiment and keep trying to achieve as much as I can in those areas in which, by God's grace, in the midst of this horrible toxic downward spiral of a culture, I have artfully dodged enough obstacles and artfully created enough opportunities for myself that I have lived this highest level achievement life of any man alive today. I mean, so is Donald Trump. I think he's such a massive achiever and has such high abilities to aspire, has unlimited aspirational capabilities. But he's more the, conservative side of things, and I'm more the other side that's the true left. And I'm conservative too, but I'm obviously here to fulfill a restoration of the true left, as I see it, which is a goddess-positive culture in all its manifestations, and a goddess and God culture in balance through Santoshama Adida and the awakening of people from their ego, which releases them from all the gender mind control, all of the sexuality and Oedipal mind control. I have overcome the snares of sexuality to the extent that I have been free of the ego self-contraction in the midst of being an embodied, incarnate, sexual human being. All of those problems that people had with sexuality that prevented them from becoming enlightened or putting their attention on the course of enlightenment, using sex as an excuse not to be serious about enlightenment, I overcame that. I stand superior to Christians, all of them. None of them have achieved that, except for Bernadette Roberts, and she's the exception that proves the rule that Christianity is the most efficient religion at producing sexual hypocrites the world has ever known, and is anti-human survival because it rejects the fertility cults. And that's one reason why I'm here to promote rock and roll, because rock and roll is the ideal cooperative community culture for the whole planet, the ideal way for nations to project sovereignty and self-respect and dominance and confidence, which is through the quality of their local regional bands, rock bands. And it affords us a way to heal the ancient wound between Christianity and paganism. Rock and roll is the fifth Abrahamic religion after Rastafarianism. It is inherently based on Western Judeo-Christian cultural background. It is an Abrahamic religion. Rock and roll is the fifth Abrahamic religion, but it is different and unique and distinct in that it is balanced between goddess and God. It accepts the female and the feminine qualities of life, and ultimately will do so in the lyrics in a way that I'm trying to do, and others after me will also. That God and goddess are both real. God and goddess are living in harmony now and are in a collaborative relationship of mutual respect and intense love. And this is literally playing out in the storylines that Santosha Tantra is writing in her books. She's writing the story of what it looks like in a mythological sense almost, and a literary poetical sense, what the new culture of civilization is going to be, which is women and men living in cooperation and collaboration. And that collaboration is a level of social functioning that is even higher than cooperation. And basically that sequence begins with coordination, cooperation, collaboration. And we want to lift up the entire human race into global cooperative culture through positive soil culture, local culture, and global culture based in prior unity. And then unite that cultural sensibility with the idea that God and goddess are in balance and in collaboration. So prior unity, everybody all at once, God and goddess as equal powers of the divine, and in a positive, loving, collaborative relationship which reflects in all human relationships. That's another dividend, on what I'm offering the world is this vision.